Reading bad Lethal Company reviews. Very enjoyable. However, there are lots of issues, so I'm only marking this as negative so that it may be seen better. Any form of water level is a massive pain in the ass. Maps have spots where you can get stuck super easily. You can only hold breath for about 7 seconds. Maps sometimes generate in such a way that you will only get a few rooms at the main entrance and find that the rest of the facility is only accessible through an emergency exit with no clear way of walking to it, etc., etc. Great game, but works more like a proof of concept more than anything. Needs more content, needs a bit of work around the edges. But overall, very fun. Instead of your 6-month plan, I wouldn't be terribly upset if you were to then have some sort of pay DLC featuring more maps, a mix-up of interpretation of the main game, or whatever more content you decide to do. Alright. Fun game, needs greater goal. I hit not recommend because most of the recommended reviews do not mention any problems. I did enjoy this game, but I feel it has a flaw that seriously mitigates it in the long term. This game is a great time with friends and it is fun to progress, get loot, and furnish your ship. However, the game is set up where there is no ending. However, the quota will keep rising until it's unachievable and you will die as a result. You can't even make save files, so once you are fired, your whole campaign is gone. By the time the quota got too high to meet, my friends and I all agreed we wish we could continue buying new gadgets and progressing. So I'd say it either needs an ending other than death, or the quota should rise slower and eventually plateau. The plateau could be higher depending on a difficulty setting. You should also be able to load back to previous saves. Edit. I hit not recommended because I want my criticisms to stand out, and I feared hitting recommended would bury it in the echo chamber review saying the game is perfect. I wish Steam had a middle option. I see why people were upset I would do that when I have all these hours in this game. When I look for criticism games, I often filter by not recommended to find them. I do recommend this game, but unlike 99% of the positive reviews, I have some suggestions. Also, you don't have to agree with my suggestions, and it shouldn't offend you if you don't. Great game overall, but as much of a personal gripe this is, can't recommend until the dev adds more indoor location variety. Most of the plants just have the facility style indoor. I absolutely love the mansion level, and I think the game would have so much more replayability if there was more variety to the indoor parts of each room. I know the dev is capable of this because the Upturned was a banger with its locations. Just hope that more variety can be added here. There's no fishing. We'll change to recommended when fishing update comes. Needs a way to select items using 1 through 4 on your number pad instead of a scroll wheel. That seems a little bit... That's a lot to write negative for, I mean... Oh, this is a long one. Pretty fun in concept, but unfortunately pretty bone dry in content. While every mission is randomly generated, there's almost no variety in terms of level tile sets. There's only 2 styles of levels, with the only difference between all but one planet being the odds of certain loot, cost of travel, and some world hazards outside the dungeons. Once you're inside the dungeon, it's almost always the same few rooms randomly repeated ad nauseum. I can forgive the landing spots being the same for the particular planets, but dungeons lacking all variety caused me to lose interest after my first extended play session. I'd say the game borders on being a really great, silly roguelike with friends, but the world dungeon tile sets really need to be different in meaningful ways beyond just a new coat of paint. The entire point of the roguelike genre is never-ending variety, but I found myself seeing the same rooms and scenarios repeating rather quickly. Hopefully future updates will change my opinion because I think Lethal Company has a lot of promise and potential behind it, and I did enjoy playing it, just can't recommend the game as it currently sits. Game seems pretty fun, but there's absolutely no way to change keybinds, and as someone with a non-standard keyboard layout, it makes the game borderline unplayable. I've heard this will be fixed soon, and once it is, I would recommend the game. No sex with monster. Game is fun, but being early access, it's pretty bare bones and will run into bugs with basic monsters, spiders, teleporting on top of you during a chase due to poor pathing, ruining runs as a result. The procedural generation needs a ton more work. Most biomes are practically the same, and 80% of the rooms you walk into are just the same bare room dead ends with nothing new in them. More than often, you can get unlucky and clear a ton of rooms and find nothing. Also could use community mods to keep it more fun in the long run so it does not get stale. Lots of potential though. This game is fun. Fun enough for me to possibly resume playing and learning after this review, but it needs a lot of improving. Check up on this game in a few months and see for yourself. Be careful if your setup could be considered an outlier by performance range. I see many people with high performance setups crashing frequently. RNG environment equals possibility of entrances being blocked in certain terrains. Monsters can enter your ship regardless of their physique, and if the doors are closed in some occurrences. That's a weird choice of words, physique. Passage of time is not altered based on amount of players, so playing solo or duo is asking to lose. No diversity indoors, the same interior assets are used no matter what planet, and a lot of rooms don't make sense. Items can spawn in unreachable places like floating under catwalks. That actually did happen to me. Outside areas are empty and pointless despite the placed structures. Oh, this is a very long one. Strange pathing. Monsters will get stuck, move back and forth endlessly, or straight up enter your ship. Monster spawns can be just as weird. I was eaten alive by a dog just after landing on a moon. Very little long-term progress. There is just a leveling system that doesn't affect the game in any way. No key rebinding. Losing all scrap on team death just doesn't make sense. Quota progression needs more refinement, and the game in general needs difficulty options. Don't just say, herder, you're bad. New players need to learn somehow. Not able to join a game mid-session. I could see how this could be abusable, but possibly sets that players can only join when ship is already in orbit. Gameplay loop never evolves or changes. Most of my good runs were spoiled by bugs or unlucky monster spawns, and restarting is getting pretty old. Outside creatures seem to rarely enter a roaming state. Most will just camp your ship and insta-kill through the ship if you even make it. No upgrades to player inventory. Large teams will be able to dedicate someone to emergency utility, while a duo is incapable of holding their own while carrying loot. Lack of direction or purpose makes sense in the perspective of a worker at Lethal Company, but it doesn't make a very fun game. There has to be some balance between struggle and reward, more than just meeting quota. Lack of numerous options that are very standard, i.e. no music slider, and when I do understand the art style, there has to be some resolve for those with easy eye strain or migraines. Oh man, he really pitching a bitch. Multiple multiplayer bugs. One player will be non-existent to another player upon joining. One player will randomly stop sending actions to the server and remain dormant for everyone else. This causes the game to register your ship as landed on the planet no matter what, because the player's state cannot be changed. Various client inconsistencies, like the ship door being open-closed for one player but not the other, players can be randomly booted from the game, and many more. The game in its current state mostly exists for content creators to scream at, and I predict that the community will start arguing for this game so hard and with such little considerations for its actual flaws that eventually the outsiders won't want in. My condolences if this remark may come off as too pessimistic, but seeing the majority of positive reviews being jokes and replies to negative reviews being skill issue, I don't see much value in the community. The game is great fun, but a huge issue is the fact that game difficulty isn't lowered when fewer players are playing. If you decide to play 2-player, the game becomes incredibly difficult and frustrating. There should be separation between 4-player worlds, 3-player worlds, and 2-player worlds. By difficulty, I mean the amount of scrap per quota. The game has a lot of potential in my opinion, but way too many people are looking at it through our rose-tinted glasses. From a technical standpoint, I simply can't recommend it right now. Lobby browser bugs and server joining freeze bug happen too often, nearly unable to play for solo players looking for a public lobby. Bro, you should get some friends though. There is no detailed plan or info on any patch or major bugs fixed yet, so you might want to wait for a few patches before buying. Things that could use some improvement: game-breaking bugs fixed, lobby browser, freeze on lobby joining, visual glitches that force a restart of the game, etc. Let players keep unlockable cosmetic items after a game is over. Yeah, they should have that. The HUD could use some customization, like scaling down the HUD or remove HUD option to be less intrusive for extra immersion. Keybind for the 4 item slots 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of being forced to use the mouse wheel. Inventory slot UI is way too big while being really hard to see. Size, location, and visibility need tweaking. The ability to rebind more buttons would be great. The slight delay between pressing jump and in-game character actually jump could be shortened. Agreed, I hated that. The ship's hydraulic doors should be able to crush and kill players. That's a very interesting, for a negative review, that's an interesting one. Make in-game time pass more slowly to prevent the need of rushing through a facility instead of exploring. Ability to sell monster body or parts, yeah, that'd be cool. The ship interior could use a slight expansion and cleaning of decorative unmovable objects. The ability to join mid-game would also be nice. Bad RNG could result in a monstrosity camping your ship entrance or building entrance. The scrap stored inside ship will be gone if all members die. Could use slightly bigger starting budget. Increase max number of players per lobby wouldn't hurt. This didn't seem like a negative review though. This guy seems like he might like it.